Have you checked the children? You're a little mad sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes. That is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
I'm Susie von Slaughter.
Duell.
And we are here to do another Patreon review. This time it is for a movie called Audition. And this was requested by Media Kraken a while back. We're finally getting around to talking about this.
Sorry.
We've been putting it off, waiting for
My fault.
Susie to come back. Marsha watched it. She said she couldn't follow it. I don't know quite why. I think she just gave up on this movie.
I can see why.
But this is a very slow movie that has a lot of sort of hubbub around it. Like, it's one of those movies you just kind of hear about when people sort of start talking about the really messed up movies out there in the horror genre. And I was like, oh boy, what are we in for? And then I watched it and I was like, this is really just a drama with like 15 minutes, 10 minutes of horror in it.
Yep.
So overall, like, I guess I get why some people like it, but it's not for me. It's too slow and the juice just ain't worth the squeeze, in my opinion. Susie?
I first saw this movie when I think I was like 15 or 16.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And during that time, Japanese movies were starting to come out. So I can see why there's a big old hubbub about it, because like when it first started coming out, that this is one of the first movies that was introducing it with America and stuff like that. And Itchy the Killer and Audition. These movies were the two that were like euphoric for everyone, and I don't like it. I'm not a fan. I think it's terrible. I think it's terrible. So
All right.
Well, yeah, no, not exactly a terrible movie, but it could have been better. Like I did watch it years ago and everything. I think I was about 15 or 16 when I originally watched it. I forgot how slow of a burn this movie was.
yeah.
Like, and this is one of the original J-horrors and everything that really brought the genre into American light and everything. And I see why audiences gravitated to it and everything, especially on like kind of the artsy-esque of
Yeah.
it. Loosely saying that, loosely.
It is.
But like you were saying though, Ichi the Killer, that's a far superior movie to Audition.
I haven't even seen that.
It's on Shudder. Watch it.
Okay.
It's alright.
I'll add it to my
Shut up.
I'll add it to my list right now.
It is awesome. All right.
So, your overall thoughts, though?
I liked it, but I didn't love it.
Okay. So, the story on this one is it's about an aging man in Japan, and he is just looking for... was he married? Did
He's
lose a wife?
a widower.
Widower, okay.
Yep.
And so now he has no one, and he basically wants to try and find a wife, but doesn't want to have to go through the rigmarole of actually, dating and stuff like that. So he approaches a friend of his who is involved in making features, and says, hey, he just talks to him, and the friend is actually the one that comes up with the idea.
Yep.
Where basically, let's hold an audition where we're acting like we're going to make a movie, but really we're auditioning future wives for you. We'll have you pick out a bunch of girls, we'll bring them all in for an audition. There won't actually be a movie, but, maybe you'll meet the one that you really want to spend the rest of your life with now, And, of course, the one that he happens to focus in on just happens to be a complete closet psychopath. So,
Of course.
Unfortunately, we don't find that out until like an hour and 45 minutes into this 2 hour and 10 minute movie or something like that.
Yeah.
So it takes a really long time to get there, and you see all the signs, and there are a couple of interesting things where he is living his normal life. He dates her for a little bit. He gets, they exchange numbers. And then you see him living his life, and when he's deciding whether or not to call her, and then you see her side of things, and she's literally just in her apartment, like kind of balled up, staring at the phone with no furniture, waiting there, and all you see is this burlap sack, this nondescript burlap sack sitting in the side of the room that at one point moves.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
But we just don't get an answer to that until so late that you really have to be patient and willing to just wait it out. And again, it's a juice versus squeeze scenario. It's so long to wait for something that at this point in 2020, we've seen so many other things that are this crazy or worse, that this doesn't have the impact that makes it worth that time.
Because a lot of the detail and everything was in the dialogue and just the small little backing plot points. That's really where a lot of the focal points you need to take on this movie were. And if you weren't paying attention to that, you'd kind of get lost.
Well, the thing is, at the time when this came out, if you had sat through this whole movie and then you saw the end, you'd be like, wow, that's one of the craziest scenes I've ever seen.
That might make not
when it
anymore.
First came out, not anymore. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We've seen so many other things that push it even further than this, that now that ending isn't worth that time.
So that's why I was saying, like, had you seen it when it first, like, when I did, Robert did, you might have a different opinion, but even back then, I was like,
I remember when this was advertised in Fangoria and everything.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I first heard about Audition.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the story of it. Now, acting wise, again, it's a cultural thing. So you can't judge the acting based on the standards that you're used to here in the States, if you're watching this in the States, because all of the Japanese actresses are very subdued and understated, because that's what the culture kind of requires of them at times, and especially, I'm assuming, in these audition scenarios, you wait to be called on, you follow instructions, all this stuff. It's a very kind of authoritative seeming situation, but nonetheless, it was parts of it were interesting, and it held my interest enough to carry me through it. But by the end, I was just like, even though it held my interest enough, that's not the same as enjoying a movie.
It took me 2 days to watch this.
That's fair. That's fair. Like, you could get halfway through and be like, all right, like, you kind of almost have to treat this like a Netflix show and, like, do it in 2 episodes.
Kind of, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's the only way you can do it without being like, this is just the most drawn-out thing ever. But nonetheless, so acting-wise, any particular...
No, everyone held their own pretty well and everything. The girl who played Asami, which is our main psychopath, or our psychopath, she did great for when she was able to kind of let loose, I would say. Yeah.
Oh. that was just the every time she did that, it was like, like I don't even remember the exact thing, but it's so unnerving.
Oh yeah, it was right up underneath. Oh, the acupuncture right up underneath the eyes and everything. Like that last part and everything was the best part of it and everything. As long as you were able to get through the rest of it, the ending would have been satisfying.
If we had gotten more of that sprinkled throughout, then it would have been way more interesting.
Yeah, because they only kind of touched on it and everything once he started going into her background and figuring out who she is or what,
So, but then it pulls kind of a weird thing where it jerks the rug out from under you at the end, where it's like, ooh, is what's happening really happening, or is it not happening?
Oh yeah, he was losing his marbles for a second. Yeah. And that scene, honestly, with the whole dog bowl thing, I literally almost launched all over my phone.
It was effective.
This is the thing, is like certain gore, like gore most of the time doesn't bother me. I could see people's eyes getting gouged out and everything, jaws ripped off. But with the vomit thing, you can't do it.
Yeah.
It's just
I'm not
that
a big vomit
gets
guy
me.
either.
Like, I literally was just sitting over. Like, I actually had to pause it and fast forward through that scene just because I just was afraid I was actually going to lose my shit all over everything.
So it does get aggressive, you guys. So obviously, I mean, if you can't surmise what happens in the movie based on what we've said, then I don't know what to tell you. We're not really spoiling anything. That's just the progression of the story, and it's a matter of whether or not you want to see it played out in your own personal time or not.
I think it's definitely worth watching it. Just
one time.
Exactly.
One time.
For a one-time watch and everything, especially if you
Susie disagrees.
If you've never quiet you. if you've never seen everything, you've always just heard about it and everything. Yeah, check it out.
I would say if you're interested in J horror.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. Original J horror.
If you're a kind of a nowadays, I shudder to say it, millennial-esque horror fan, you're not going to dig this. You're going to hate it. you'll never even make it to the end.
No, you won't.
But if you're someone that can have patience and you can appreciate that sort of style of the old J-horror, by the way, in case you didn't realize, is Japanese horror movies. That's sort of the moniker that style of movie got when it started to transition over here in the 90s pretty heavily.
The only movie that I will, to the day I die, would tell you is amazing. Train to Busan.
Oh,
That's
yeah. Busan, yeah.
To Busan, whatever.
Well, that wasn't J-horror. That's Korean.
Yeah. That's
Whatever. I can't do any other.
Asian horror?
Asian horror, I can't.
Yeah.
That's
You know
the
they're making a
only
sequel?
one.
Yeah, they are.
Yes.
No.
I'm
Did
super
you see
excited.
the anime? The
No,
anime?
what's that available on now, by the way? I need to watch that.
The
Is
anime?
it on Prime or is it on? Yeah,
The anime, I believe, is Check Crackle.
Okay, yeah.
So
I
that's
know
the
it's
only one.
available.
I'm not a big fan of.
That one
I'll
is
let you know when I
called
figure that one
something
out.
Station.
So
or
yeah,
something.
all around-
Soul Station.
Soul Station.
I'm
Yeah.
not a big
which is-
fan
I haven't watched that yet.
of Asian horror. I'm not.
It's alright.
So
Okay.
going into Train to Busan, I was like, but that one was amazing. This obviously I was like,
Okay,
Like-
fair enough. So there you go. You got a few different opinions on this one, you guys. I think I kind of agree with Robert. I think if any of this actually interests you, give it a look. But if it doesn't, then it's not going to change your mind. So
The gore, when we get to it, is worth it.
Fair enough.
For what we have
Fair
and
enough.
everything, it was worth it. And elements of this one movie, there's one scene in this movie that really pisses me off.
yeah,
I don't want to say it
yeah.
because you already know what's going to happen if you've already seen the trailer.
Robert's an animal lover.
animal. Yeah.
So anyway, guys, let's call it there. That's going to do it for our review of Audition. Thank you very much to our patron. I already forgot. To this Media Kraken, of course.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, Media Kraken, for suggesting this one. It was definitely, it's something that I'm glad that I hadn't seen it before, so it is something I feel like I should have filed
It's nice
away.
to check off the bucket list. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So thanks very much. If you guys want to become a patron and request movies like this for us to review or even do commentaries for or beyond, that link is in the description box. While you're down there, if you enjoyed the video, click the like button and subscribe.
While
But
you're down
until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
I'm Susie Von Slaughter.
I'm Robert Duell.
And remember,
Stay scared.